Well, gentlemen, hey, thank you so much. Welcome to part two of our conversation on freedom. And I just, again, love what we said. And all of you, in your own way, said that freedom really starts here in your mind and inside of us. You know, sources. I think, man, we could have some great conversation on what's informing what gets here. Man, that would be a dope conversation. But we'll save that for another day. So, maybe we'll call that a series. Sources. You know. But one of the things that I realize is that there are people out there. If you're out there and you're listening to this, or maybe you know some of them, and you're kind of going, "Man, that makes sense to me. I'm striving to live free." Dope. Keep it up. Continue to surround yourself with people who are thinking that way. But you might find yourself listening to this and going, "Man, that makes sense to me, but I don't know how to get there." And so what I wanted to ask our panelists, my friends here today, is kind of, what are some of the barriers that you've maybe experienced or even been aware of in other people that are keeping them from experiencing freedom? So, Josh, man, I'll start with you, sir.
Barriers to freedom. One, I would probably say your view of you, your view of self. How I view me can keep me definitely bound to some things. I don't need to be bound to. And then that's one. Two, in Bruce was kicking his game before we recorded, is my mindset. Do I know that I'm free? I mean, do I know that I'm bound? Right. So my barrier to me being free is not realizing that I'm bound. Right. Do I? Yeah, absolutely. It's ignorance. Absolutely. So those are my two probably barriers. And I've even seen those in my personal life. Right. How I view me, my self-esteem. And then me not realizing that I'm bound in certain areas that I am.
Awesome. Yeah. And Josh, I would say this. And so even as you talk about the self-esteem issue, for many people, that's the thing. And I call it that self-talk, because our view of ourselves determines what we say to ourselves. Absolutely. Absolutely. So if we have low self-esteem, then the talk that we say to ourselves is the talk that I won't. Go ahead.
Doubtful talk.
Doubtful. Yeah, it's doubtful talk, it's negative talk. We begin to talk about all of the reasons why we can't achieve. And none of them are true. Right. It's just what's in our head. We talked about in the last segment, how do things get here and here? Yeah. And then once it's here and here, then it becomes very difficult to correct it or to change it.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So I love that. I love that.
Yeah, I love that too. And for me, I would think that, just something about shaping, and what is shaping? As you was brought up as being young with parents, you seen stuff that was just not fitting. You was told as a child that you wouldn't probably be nothing, or it was words that were spoken around you that kept a negative spirit over you. And here it is now, you're trying to break through, but that stuff is in your subconscious.
It is.
And you gotta root it out. Yep. And the only one can root it out is Jesus Christ, through God. He can root it out, but then it takes a slow process to begin to grind, to create that mindset to know that I can, to know that this door can be open. Now, from a black man's standpoint, I know a lot of times black guys are looking over their shoulders. They go in a new environment, they go in somewhere new, and you may go in a store or whatever, somebody always looking at you, trying to see if you're here to steal. But you got to know in your mind, no matter how you look at me, this is a good product. This is a good product. So yeah, that's
real talk right there. There's a term, one of the things, and I'll let you all continue to talk. There's a term that I think about as it relates to barrier, and it goes back to it's the word propaganda. There's this constant assault that's sending messages to you and you and you and me about who we're supposed to be. Like I often think a false narrative. freedom looks like this, right? Corn, if you really free, bro, man, you gonna be driving this, which I ain't tripping about what you drive, or you gonna be living this, you gonna be living in this, bro. You gonna be, hey, you this, that, and the third, like, hey, and again, I'm a LeBron fan, love it, amen. Yeah, I'm a fan, yeah, go Lakers. But one of the things they offer is this, hey, man, freedom looks like my ability to get on this whatever size yacht with my friends during the summer. And I am mad if you have determined that that's your goal and you can live within your means and you do not put yourself in a position where you're bound to chase something. That's cool. But man, oftentimes I think about this when I grew up in Tacoma, Washington. What does freedom look like? A good job. That's all I knew. Freedom was a good job. Yep, it was a good, man, if I can just get a good job and if I can just get a good car and get a house, I'll be free.
So that's shaping. That's coming from.
That's that propaganda. But then I also juxtaposed, good times. Y'all remember good times? Yeah. Those weren't good times. Right. Those weren't really good times. Those weren't good times. those weren't good times, but I thought they were, because that's the narrative, that part of the shaping that's going on. But there, and then it's kind of like access.
Yeah, that's I had exposure.
Okay.
Same thing. No, same thing. Who are we exposed to? Who are we around? Right? Yeah. That helps to do with the shaping. That helps to do with our self-esteem. That has to do with, do we look at things positive or negative, right? It absolutely. So I was just saying exposure. That's a barrier though to freedom, depending on what the exposure is. Yeah. Because if all we're around are drug dealers, pushers, pimps, prostitutes, and I'm not saying that is, but if that's all we're around, guess what? Likely that.
Or if you're not around any business owners.
Or if you're not around business owners.
Everybody knows works 9 to 5, and nobody I know owns a business.
Correct.
Who might work longer than 9 to 5, but at least they own what they're working for. That's exposure.
And that was actually going to be what I was saying. Ownership is probably one of the biggest barriers to freedom just within one's own self, and that's in the sense of personal accountability, taking ownership of your behaviors, you know what I'm saying, taking ownership of your decisions and the consequences of that, as well as actual ownership, like building in something, like investing in something and then growing that something, so that you have control, you have the freedom to operate in that space as you want, because that's a space that you've created. But if you have not created that space, you don't have the freedom to operate as you please, because somebody else has authority. The owner has the authority. So whoever built that, is the one whose principles who you're bound to if you want to move in that space. So the lack of those two things, ownership of your own personal accountability, and like you were saying, if you don't have business owners owning capital, owning resources, then you have limited options, which leaves you bound.
Right. And I love that ownership. That is so key. But we need to see more of that in our community.
Yes.
We need to see that.
So Bruce, I was just saying too, but ownership, I love what you said. See, when we think of ownership, we think about stuff. But he said personal accountability. Yeah. Own your decisions, because decisions have choices have consequences, good and bad. So own the consequences. Own the decisions that we make, understanding they have consequences, good and bad. I love that, because when you talk about ownership, it's not just about stuff. It's not just about business, it's property, but it's own my decisions. Take responsibility for my life. Take responsibility for my decisions and my choices.
In spite of the exposure.
In spite of the exposure.
Whatever you had been exposed to, in spite of the shaping, whatever someone tried to shape you into, the process of knocking that down, building back up your self-esteem is the process of growing your faith. That is that. That's just the spiritual word for believing that you can believe. You know what I'm saying? That's the opposite of doubt. That negative spirit. That that's So that's it all comes just back to really belief. Freedom is so deeply, like, inextricably tied to belief, you know?
Right.
You gotta believe that you can. And God is really, because we can. Emotions will betray you. You will not. You cannot trust your own emotions. You
Yeah.
don't have to have faith in a support system. You know, we
Never
all
get
need
you
strength
through.
sometimes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
And I would say
For
this:
sure.
the support system, the thing that you have to have faith in, is that thing that has proven to be successful, reliable,
Come on,
faithful.
man.
Never has it failed. And so that's the thing that we need to tie ourselves to. And then I was just thinking about this, even as you were talking about, even in spite of, when we talk about barriers, even in spite of where we grew up or how we grew up or the environment that we grew up, once we make a decision that we want to do something different, and you talked about this, you said the universe. What happens then is the things begin to align based on where we're trying to go. Once we make that decision,
Conspire in your
And-
favor.
right.
The universe conspires
Yeah.
in your
Yeah.
favor as soon as you get that resolve. You know.
But I think what you said is important, because soon as your statement was, as soon as I make a decision to do something different, to your point earlier, I have to see different. Right. I have to have exposure. You know, to different. So I mean, I do. All these things are so tightly
they are.
interrelated.
Yes.
You know, I think
Yes.
this is important too.
Yes.
As we think about the economics piece, I know it's really important to you, Bruce, and all of us, I'm sure. But I think it's really important that when we gain a sense of exposure, that we go to certain areas who may not have exposure to give them exposure.
Yes.
Because some decisions may never be made if they never know the decision. Some decisions may never be made if they don't know the decision is an option.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know
You
what you
simply
don't know.
don't know what
That's
you
right.
don't know.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah,
that's
that's
really
good.
good.
That's good.
That's good.
Gentlemen, I wanna elevate a term that AJ used that I do think is a barrier to freedom. It's a lack of resolve.
Oh yeah.
Man, and I am utterly convinced you can decide, you can put forth effort, man, but working through the internal, external barriers, whatever they may be, is going to require resolve. And what I have seen more often than not, especially in our community, is a lack of resolve. You know, like there are people like they'll listen to us and they'll go, yeah, I'll do it, right? Yeah, I want to be free, woo! And I'm going to determine you're going to tap into your source, mine's Jesus, the Word. I tap into that. I still think we got to do our work, though, Bruce. The Bible says very clear, you got to renew your mind. So God provided, we still got to do some work. So, we got to operationalize what's been provided. But then you're going to meet opposition. How do you respond then? And it is in that moment that I think that flicker of freedom can be doused because of the lack of resolve.
So can I?
Yeah, go ahead. Now, I was going to say that regardless, boundaries is life. Regardless to if you're choosing to say that I want to change my life and be better, do better, if you just don't say anything and you don't want anything, you're going to still meet those roles. So choose to do something different in your life. Choose to say, when I wake up, I'm stepping towards greater than.
Yeah. I would add the word again. Because you have to keep making that decision. That's my point, Bruce. What you're saying, it can't be a one-off. What you're saying is I'll make that decision on Thursday, and Thursday could be a great day. I wake up, I make it on Friday, and then all hell breaks loose. I have to keep making it Friday, and then I have to make it again on Saturday. What happens is, what I've seen in my life and in the lives of others is they'll make it on Thursday, have a good day, come out the gate, and then that opposition's coming.
Can I say this? Yeah. Because everybody pretty much at this table is into sports, except for Bruce. Bruce could take it over here.
Hey, you better for me. Hey,
If I ain't making money with it,
Okay.
There's a way you can make money.
Okay.
But let me get back to.
sorry.
Oh, that's a good point, though.
It is a good point. It is.
can choose one.
It is. But my point is this: regardless of whether we talk about making money in sports or whatever we're talking about, for me, the one thing when you talk about resolve, I agree with that. But then you have to tie resolve with discipline. Discipline. Everything that people are successful at in life requires discipline. And I don't mean beating your kid when they do something bad. I'm talking about being focused and having a methodical approach to doing something every day, over and over and over again. I use Kobe Bryant since we're here, and we got LeBron, and we got the Laker jersey on the floor. But Kobe Bryant, one of the best basketball players of all times, he would go after the game. He scored 30, 40 points in the game. He would go after the game. He'd go to the gym, and he's going to do 1,000 free throws. That's discipline. 1,000 free throws. He had an 83, 84% free throw percentage rate. You probably know better than I. My point is, even with all of the talent, even with the resolve, which he was very driven, there was still the discipline. Discipline says, this is what I'm going to do every single day, regardless of how I feel. You talked about emotions. Regardless of what it looks like. Thursday was a good day, but this is what I have to do in order to get me where I want to go.
I think they're one and the same. You don't have resolve is expressed by it's by disciplined life. It's expressed through our habits. How do I know that you have resolve?
Consistency.
Yep, you keep it. I'm resolved to gain weight. Why? I keep going to this is it. Yeah. I'm resolved. How do you know? Look at, Bruce, Josh, you can follow my little look my American spread, and you can see all that stuff. So, but again, real quick, for the people that might be listening to it, what are some ways that you've seen, not in your own lives, but what are those barriers in, specifically black men that keeps them from being free? I'd love to just hear your thoughts.
I know I have two of the barriers that really are prevalent with black men, is particularly in America, are I would say probably like a lack of education, and that's pretty deep rooted. That can branch off into a pretty round tree, because for one, I think knowing how to communicate, mastery of language, allows you a freedom that no one can take away from you. Mm-hmm. Being able to express your thoughts and your emotions, in a constructive way, what can sometimes kind of free you from being a slave to your impulses. Like if you feel anger, and you, as opposed to saying this, it really upset me when this took place, you curse somebody out, or you want to fight, or you become a slave to that, the frustration you feel for not being able to articulate how you feel. You want to feel heard, so that the helplessness that comes along with the lack of education, it just typically that can affect your self-esteem. That can affect your options with finance, your mobility within society. So I think that's one thing, and not a lot of times it may. Anyway, it gets deep because then you may look for ways to express yourself, or ways to feel heard, and maybe you gravitate toward hip hop music, and the messages that's sending aren't even. It's not freeing. You know what I'm saying? It's not freeing at all. So just being able to, express yourself, I think is a really, education can really, place an importance upon that. And then the second one would probably be just financial literacy.
Wow, that's risky.
That's just, or the lack thereof, just, again, it just ties back into the amount of options that you have in life, because you don't even know to make, as you mentioned before, you don't even know what to do with the money that you do get. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So right. You're still bound. All of that is really, I consider to be real barriers to freedom, to take self accountability. It's like, well, this all I saw growing up, or this all I know. It's like you just relying on that and not being able to just take ownership for your own decisions, or believe that you can excel beyond that situation. I think has a lot to do with how educated you are in both of those areas.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that because of what I have seen. Guys get upset. They get caught up with police officers and stuff because they want to be able to want to speak on what they're feeling, but they can't. So the anger come out to express it. So definitely education and finance, like you said. The money can come in, but they don't know what to do with it. So they know that, hey, I'm gonna go out and get some fly tennis shoes. So yeah.
And I would feel pressed to say too that on the same vein, that education does not mean sometimes we're like an education. Why go to college? That's not education. I've been educated here the last 10, 15, how long we've been talking here. This is education. Sitting across from people who have knowledge in certain areas and me being able to glean from what you guys said, that's also education. So I feel pressed to say it doesn't necessarily mean formal education.
I agree with that.
But I guess it goes back to what you said earlier. Exposure is sitting next to someone.
And that's exactly what I was going to say, Josh. What I'm hearing is exposure, because even when we talk about education, to your point, what about the trades?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great way to make a fantastic living in the trades.
Exactly.
Right?
And probably do better.
Right? Yes.
With less debt.
Exactly. Yeah.
2 years.
And so again, and then the financial thing, I think so these two, the education and the financial piece are really critical.
Yes,
but then also being able to express yourself and all the stuff that we're talking about, but it all to me ties back into this exposure. What are we exposing ourselves to? What are the options? Because we don't know what we don't know if we haven't been exposed to these things. So I think those are real barriers. Exposure. Even what we see on TV, and you touched on it, talking about the music. I don't even turn the TV on half the time. Really. I mean, really.
I was going to say, and I'm not sure what adjective to use or what category to put that in, but I think that's a barrier too. Whatever society is telling you should be.
Your programming.
I think that is
Shaping.
I think that is definitely, whatever it is that gets me in line to propaganda to buy $300 tennis shoes,
And here's the thing, Josh.
which I'm a problem with, by the way. I do have an issue with it if some other things are not in line. You see what I'm saying?
The value you assign to that,
the value
is
assigned
going to need to be in
it
line.
needs to be in line. So I mean, but the value to value that over financial literacy is to me a challenge. I'm not sure what to call that, Corn. Host.
I don't. But no. I mean, but whether we call it something or not, let's at least surface it. And one of the ones I want to add as we just kind of look at some other things is, man, look, it's Josh and I talked about this, is mental health. Look, AJ, I thought you were going there because, man, look, when you talked about being able to express yourself, man, and look, I know this, trauma is a huge barrier. Man, and look, and I ain't even got the skills to deal with it. I'm angry. Look, I could say this. So I'm sitting here at this table, and one of the things I went to counseling for was my anger with black men.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I had been let down by all the black men in my life. I didn't have this table. I mean, I had a different table, and that table sent a lot of harm. Now what I'm aware of now is they didn't know how to deal with their trauma, how to express themselves. They didn't have the words. Man, look, they out there trying to work their socioeconomic game, which led them to be incarcerated, which led them to do this. So they running game because they trying to do this hustle. But I'm left hurt because I'm looking up to them. And I'm disappointed, and I'm disappointed, and I'm disappointed, and I'm disappointed. And my disappointment became a barrier to receiving from people that looked like me. And now I went to counseling. I mean, look, I had to go do my work, sit in the chair, because I didn't have the words. But I sat there, and they gave me a space to begin to articulate some things when I realized, okay, oh man, I can forgive because I recognize that they were dealing with some stuff that they weren't able to articulate to me because they didn't have the words.
I think it's really important, and I don't think we truly understand the connection between what AJ said and what Corn said, is because I think in our culture, we as men are taught not to be expressive, period. Let alone try to figure out how to be expressive, not to be expressive. And I think it's in the lack of expression that we create mental health, issues. And I do think it is not just black men. I think culturally, we as a community do not address mental health, and sometimes things that are mental health issues we over spiritualize.
Yes.
Yes, that's
Call it something else.
That's good.
Go ahead and take them meds along with the prayer. There's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I appreciate the prayer, but there's a diagnosis.
There is a clinical reason.
Two things can be true. Okay?
Yes.
So,
That's really good.
That is
That's really good.
I'll tell you, for me though, growing up, just being young, man, growing up, you talking about not expressing yourself. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I would keep stuff in,
Wow.
but I would bust you upside the head.
Yeah.
It wasn't nothing but the grace of God that kept me from going to jail. Because I would not express. If you come wrong to me, I do know how to throw down.
Yeah.
So
right.
He said that may be your God-given talent.
So what happened though? What made that life change? Is
That's a
that
great
when I got married and I said I do, and I told my wife, I got you. When she had my child, my first child, I said, woo! When I seen that baby coming in this world, I know, okay, now this got to stop.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let a system, I'm not going to allow myself
Yeah.
to take me
so
from the
good.
presence
Yep.
of being a part of this.
Yeah.
So so
That's
you
all.
have
That's
to
it.
reach inside.
Yep.
Yeah. And do your homework.
Yep.
Yeah. Again, I'm just saying, AJ said that's that resolve.
Yeah. Resolve. Yeah.
You, at that moment, you made a resolution, a conscious decision that I'm going to be a part of my child's life. I'm going to be a part of the family.
Right.
That nothing, no system, none of this
Yeah.
is going to keep me from being a part of what I've been blessed with.
Yes.
And Corn, I think when you talk about barriers, I would say this: we must recognize that they exist.
Yes.
You talked about it early on, that when we make a decision that we're going to do whatever it is,
Yep.
or do nothing,
Yep.
there's going to be opposition.
Yep.
But the fact remains, we have to say, in spite of, if I want to be a part, if I want to be successful, if I want to be educated, whatever it is
Yeah.
that your individual definition of freedom is,
Yep.
I have to resolve. I'm going to press through
Yep.
to get to wherever that place is. So the barriers do exist,
Yep.
but we can't use those. And here's my big thing, and then I'm done. But we can't use those as excuses
No.
for not moving forward and achieving those things that we know that we are God-given talents and God-given gifts and abilities to be able to do. We can't use them as excuses. And that would be the one thing I would say for us in our community is, man, we'll give excuses. And
Yeah.
my son is sitting here, he'll tell you, I don't give excuses.
Yeah.
When I mess up,
Yeah.
I mess
Own
up.
it.
Own it. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Well, it's again, that's that if freedom starts here, then we must also recognize barriers here. Now there are external ones, that's real, but I think as I listen to you all, you have really helped me to slow down and go, hey man, the biggest barrier, I think, your view of yourself. It started in me, and whether my feelings, my thoughts, whether what I'm putting into my brain, it started with me. And so, hey, what we're going to do here is I want to thank you all for helping me identify these barriers. Hey, you can be looking out for a conversation with me and Tony Miles as we look at how do we overcome our barriers and begin to move with freedom. Hey, thank you, gentlemen, for a great day, and thanks for being on another episode of Talking Good. God bless. Peace.